Lil Durk has just been linked by the feds to a second murder for hire plot. This time it's in Chicago. Now originally, Durk was charged for orchestrating the hit on Quando Rondo in LA, but this time, the feds are alleging that Durk hired contract killers in Chicago to avenge the death of his older brother D-Thang, who was killed in June of 2021 while leaving an out-of-town Chicago nightclub in Harvey, Illinois. Now in a newly unsealed indictment, Durk is the target of an FBI investigation, linking him to the execution of Stephon Mack. The story gets real interesting as Mack was killed by Anthony Montgomery, aka AJ from Mike City, and Preston Powell, aka Marley from Mike City, in a revenge contract killing, with both individuals' phones being linked to the scene, and even one individual forgetting their phone in the stolen vehicle used in the murder. Just taking it back a bit to the first murder for hire that Durk was charged with in October, Lil Durk was charged for orchestrating the murder of Quando Rondo that killed Lil Pop in LA and is currently fighting for his life to even get bail. However, after all this overwhelming circumstantial evidence that placed him as co-conspirator 1, who orchestrated a murder in retaliation for the death of King Von, who was his twin in him, aka V-Roy, it showcased that Lil Durk allegedly had 5 OTF members board a plane from Chicago that later made rounds all the way to LA to stalk Quando Rondo after getting a drop from co-conspirator 2, which is widely believed to be an LA local. Now recently, the heat from this new indictment charging Durk for the recent get back for Thang, aka D-Thang, means Durk will 1000% not get bail. Now, the United States District Court of Northern District of Illinois alleges that the FBI's investing allegations that Anthony Montgomery, also known as Anthony Montgomery Wilson, and Preston Powell used facilities of interstate commerce with the intent that a murder for hire be committed in violation of Title 18 of the United States Code, and that Montgomery possessed a firearm as a convicted felon, which is a violation of, obviously, his probation. Specifically, the FBI is investigating allegations that Montgomery and Powell murdered Stephon Mack on January 27, 2022 in violation of the laws of the state of Illinois, as consideration of the receipt of something of peculiar value. Now, Mack was shot and killed by 2 assailants while leaving the Youth Peace Center of Roseland, and the 2 assailants exited from a parked car, stolen car, and began firing as Mack walked across the parking lot. And as the 2 assailants were driving into the parking lot, Powell, using cell phone subject 1 or subject 3, exchanged several phone calls with the user of subject 4. And law enforcement believe that subject 4 is typically used by co-conspirator A, but for the reasons set forth, may have not been charged yet. After the murder, it's believed that the 2 assailants abandoned the stolen car at the scene in the parking lot after having murdered Mack. Now, through law enforcement investigation, it's believed that Powell and Montgomery were the 2 assailants, and after the murder, Montgomery left his phone inside of the stolen vehicle, and Powell used to commit the murder. Powell would call Montgomery 3 times to the phone that he left in the car, but after the murder, they would split up and go different directions on foot. And it seems that Powell was likely unaware that Montgomery had left his phone inside of the stolen vehicle used to commit the murder. What really got them wrapped up in this murder is that 34 minutes after Mack was murdered, Montgomery's girlfriend, who's a subscriber paying for the AT&T phone bill, would report that her phone was stolen. And approximately 3 minutes after contacting AT&T, Montgomery's girlfriend was contacted by subject's phone 5. Just to summarize everything, it seems that Montgomery and Powell were the 2 individuals who killed Stephon Mack after leaving this facility, and they will be tracked or traced back to the crime because one of the individuals will leave a phone in the car and the other individual will call them after the crime happened and the phone would still be in that car. And to make matters even worse, the girlfriend, who I'm not sure if it was her phone that he was using, will report her phone as being stolen, and after AT&T did the tracking, they would find it linked in that car. This indictment will speak on the background information about the Smashville GDs and the Mike City BDs who operate on the south side of Chicago. Now, for a bit of background information on Stephon Mack, most of the information comes from a snitch and is brought to you by a CHS, which what the feds call confidential human source, which is pretty much an informant, like point blank period. Now, it's being alleged that this CHS involved in this case has been working with the FBI for over 5 years, and they've been paid $12,000 to provide reliable and accurate information about street activities. This CHS informant will identify Anthony Montgomery, aka AJ, who is a Mike City black disciple from the south side of Chicago. Now, Montgomery would be circled in red and pictured in a large group in photos with Lil Durk and be notorious BD seen here. Now, for the other suspect, Preston Powell, he lives somewhere on the Carpenter Street, which is located in the Mike City BD territory, and the CH1 would pretty much break down all the notorious gangs and say who lived here and what charges they had in the past, and it was really only a matter of time. Now, they'll begin to discuss Lil Durk, describing Lil Durk as a famous rapper from the south side of Chicago, and proceed to say that Durk is a member of Lamron, which is a faction of the Black Disciples, and according to CPT records, Lil Durk's brothers D-Thang, which is Dante Banks Jr., aka D-Thang, was shot and killed outside of a nightclub in Harvey, Illinois in June of 2021. Now, the CH1 has reported that Lil Durk was still offering money for people to kill those involved for his brother's murder. So saying that Durk was putting money in the streets, said, hey, if you can whack whoever killed D-Thang, you can get a bag. And more specifically, offering to pay any money for any gangster disciple that is killed. So he's saying if you kill a GD, yeah, I'm rocking with you. Okay, so the CH1 will also indicate that D-Thang was killed by members of Dump Street. Now, according to CHS1, Dump Street is a GD faction on the south side of Chicago. According to CH1, Dump Street member individual was very close to Mac. And according to law enforcement records, individual A is currently in pretrial custody for allegedly having committed a double murder that took place in the Country Club Hills, Illinois. Now, here's where they try and connect Durk to the murder based on what happened to Stephon Mack. According to the records, information provided by YPC, Mack arrived at the YPC at approximately 12:07 p.m. on January 22nd. Now, based on the video surveillance footage, it's believed that approximately 2:22, so 22222, while Mack was still inside the YPC, a 2014 black Chrysler sedan with tinted windows carrying the shooters drove into the YPC parking lot. And the Chrysler was initially parked on the east side of the parking lot facing YPC, so say that the car was facing the building. Now, at approximately 2:25 p.m., the Chrysler moved to the west side of the lot facing eastward, and the shooters remained in the Chrysler for approximately 40 minutes, apparently waiting for Mack to leave YPC. Based on the video evidence provided by YPC, Mack exited YPC and began walking across the parking lot at approximately 2:59. Now, as he walked toward his car, two individuals emerged from the Chrysler, one from the driver's side door and the other from the front passenger side door, and they began shooting at Mack, who fled eastbound away from the shooters. Based on video surveillance footage provided by YPC, as well as the autopsy report, shooter A pursued Mack on foot and shot him to death with a Ruger AR-556 rifle. God damn. According to Chicago police records, the AR-556 rifle used in his murder was found a tenth of a mile away in someone's backyard that they found close to the YPC Center. This Get Back murder would happen almost 3 years ago. Given that it's December right now, this happened in January of 2022. But they were just linked to the side in such a way that you can't even deny. They had the IME serial numbers for the phone. They had the phone numbers linked there. They had the GPS signals. There was so much low-key damning information that just pushed them at the scene. And once you see the text message of them low-key incriminating Durk, it gets even worse. Now, just like what we saw with the Quan Arano case where Durk had a verse where he said, "We on his ass, go, get location, go." The same thing is happening in this case using a different song, Aha. Now, if you know Aha, you more likely think it's a Youngboy diss because he's saying don't respond to shit with Vaughn. But there's other deeper layers that connect to the D-Thang murder that we simply didn't know until this indictment. The feds would say that on February 22nd, 2022, Lil Durk released a song called Aha, and it's believed that some of the lyrics were in reference to the Get Back murder of D-Thang. Now, for example, Durk rapped, "We be sliding through their blocks and they don't know we have. Buddy ass got shot and we ain't claim it, but I can show his ass." Which is talking about obviously Stephon Mack getting whacked because he killed Durk's brother, and Durk was not taking that shit lightly. The song Aha has so many layers because when you look at it, Durk even had a verse where he pretty much spoke on the whole D-Thang situation, but we didn't really take any light to it until now. "My brother D-Thang just got killed and I've been slow since, but we got back on their ass and I bet they know this." So if you're from Chicago and you obviously are in the streets, you would more likely know this, but if you're an average, regular hip-hop fan who just reports on it or looks at it in the media, you wouldn't know what this meant. You would think that Durk said, we're going to get back. But until we saw this federal indictment, the second one, and this was so strategic for this following reason, because Durk was already trying to get bail based off the Quan Arano murder, and they had, I don't want to say incriminating evidence, but they definitely had a lot of circumstantial evidence. But with this new case of saying people in Chicago are saying like, yo, they did a hit for Durk, these are people from Chicago, and like they were just so sloppy with the crime. And let me get to the text message because that's the most important thing. So 2 weeks after the murder, Montgomery and Powell were having a conversation on their phone, and this is how you know how tactical the Fed. So 2 weeks after the murder, Montgomery and Powell were having a conversation on their phone, and this is how you know how tactical the feds are because I'm looking at it right now and it says that iPhone 12 Pro is recovered with the telephone number 773, and they even have the IMEI number. Like they have everything down to a T. And they basically had text messages between Powell, who messaged Montgomery, said, "What's up with OTF?" He said nothing. "What do you mean they're not paying? We waiting, he comes here on the 17th. So what they're saying is, hey, yo, Durk comes to town on the 17th, and this is February 2022. We'll get our bread then. And it's just bad because when you say OTF, the first thing they think about is Durk and Vaughn, and you're probably thinking of Lil Durk first because he started it. Now, the other text message read, "Stand on that while you with Durk and them. Durk did give you that money." These guys can't even spell or be grammatically correct. Oh my God, yeah. They're bound to get caught. I can't even lie to you. So anyways, they're saying, did Durk give you the money? When are we getting paid? We did a hit. And one thing you've learned about hip-hop throughout the past couple months is that, bro, if you're going to do a drill or do some form of murder, the killers have to be paid. And here's what I mean by that. We saw the Young Dolph case where one of the killers only got $800 is supposed to get, I guess, $100K for killing Young Dolph. We saw the XXXTentacion case where the fat guy, the guy who told and snitched on all of them and they all got life, he was supposed to get like I think 10 bands, and they only gave him like 2, and he's like, "Oh yeah, all right, I'm telling then." Like when you do a murder, you have to pay the shooter. I'm not even condoning violence, but I'm just being honest because if you don't tell them and you get like you got caught up, imagine you're going to jail for the rest of your life over $800. You're going to tell. You are going to tell. So when it comes to doing crime, you have to do crime. You know, that's you, but you gotta pay the shooters, man. But them having over text was not a good look. What may have sealed the case is that one of the employees at this youth peaceful center, or the YPC, would pretty much identify both of the suspects as someone who at least tended that camp 6 months prior to being kicked out. Now, what's pretty much unclear to me is that this camp is a youth peace center, right? And I'm not gonna lie, when you think about youth, you think of anyone under the age of 18 or maybe under the age of 21. Now, D-Thang, Durk's brother, was over 30 when he got killed, right? So I'm not sure if maybe the opposite, that's how it is in Chicago, where you send young guys to kill older guys. I just thought it'll be people around the same age. But that was a little bit strange because this person, Stephon Mack, got killed while leaving a youth peace center, or a youth center, right? Like, I'm thinking like a YMCA when I hear YPC. I'm gonna be honest, right? Like a YMCA. So they left this YMCA type of building where they're trying to reduce the violence, keep people inside and off the streets, and this person got killed. So I'm trying to think, how old is Stephon Mack to even be at a youth peace center, and how old are these guys to even be kicked out of one? I don't think you can be 25 going to a youth peace center. Like, you're a grown ass man. Like what are you doing here, right? That's just not really gonna work. So basically, one of the employees here identified them because they said both these individuals were high risk. They got kicked out of the camp or get kicked out of the youth center, and they've been kicked out over 6 months ago. So that when they came back, it's like they recognized them, like, hey, and you had to sign in. Like, this is why the killers are being sloppy. For them to even enter the building, which it's kind of conflicting because I'm seeing different reports looking at the affidavit and stuff. It seems like they've signed in there before, they've been there before. So point is, they got identified and their ass was seen on the crime scene. And 2 months later, man, the wheels of justice move slow, but they move correct. Now, this is just heartbreaking for Durk, just being honest with you, because Durk has always been the guy. Obviously, like when your brother dies, I've never had a situation like that, so I can't really speak on it, but I can only assume that you would want revenge in the quickest fashion, and the get back was quick. But the way how these are aligning, like this murder literally happened before the Quando attempt. So Durk having 2 hits in the same year is just wild work. But I say this to say, thank you for watching the video. We'll be on to the next one. Jared the Star. It's getting crazy. Lock in.